Lincoln's Patriotism, the Antidote. At the heart of the story I'm about to tell you is Abraham Lincoln in prison. Prepare to be astounded. The last teaching job I took before retirement was a 13-year hitch in a California state prison. And I had my work cut out for me. These guys can't read a bus timetable, don't know how to write a check, don't know the words to Jingle Bells. They're way on the other side of zero. And in addition, at the very best of times, their emotional default position is sullen resentment. And the best of times doesn't occur very often. Trust me on that. And one of the things I learned at the very beginning was you become like the people you run with. And the thought occurred to me, well, why not get them to run with Lincoln? After all, he's the best this country has to offer, and in terms of role models, why settle for second stringers? And I chose Lincoln because, well, I gave my first talk on Lincoln in high school, been fascinated with him ever since. I read my way through a fairly respectable Lincoln Civil War library, and all through my teaching career, I never really needed him until this job. And how did Lincoln make it into my prison classroom? Well, there's a writing prompt for starters, but I quickly discarded that idea as being too clunky. Took up too much time. I was looking for something shorter and sharper, something I could use every day, something more in keeping with what you might call nanosecond attention span. So I hit on this idea of reading every morning excerpts from what came to be my calendar-based book, Lincoln 365. I'd read the excerpt in the morning, and then no discussion. Leave it, get on with the rest of the day's work. Tomorrow I'd read tomorrow's excerpt, and I'd take 365 days to get to yesterday's excerpt. Read it, leave it. Drip, drip, drip. Slow and sure, not fast and shallow. And what are those excerpts like? Well, let me read a few, and you be the judge. Imagine you're standing in line for your Starbucks decaf, and you read this excerpt. What happens inside your head? I don't like that man. I must get to know him better. Abraham Lincoln. The world is full of wonderful things, waiting patiently for our wits to grow sharper. Anonymous. I am living witness that the child of any man here may look to come to this big White House as my father's child has. Abraham Lincoln. Sooner or later, we all sit down to a banquet of consequences. Robert Louis Stevenson. Well, I like this one. Well, for those who like that sort of thing, I should think it's the very sort of thing they should like. Abraham Lincoln. All the world's a stage, and most of us are desperately unrehearsed. Sean O'Casey. And did those excerpts produce any change? Well, over time, yes, because I unwittingly stumbled on a strategy that incorporated subliminal advertising, which is illegal, as you know, precisely because cumulatively it's virtually irresistible. So what kind of changes? Well, they took on Lincoln's ability, evident in all of these excerpts, his ability to live comfortably inside his own skin. Those guys who suffer from chronic clinical depression like Lincoln, who, by the way, was on the business end of a suicide watch, January 1841, they developed an increasing appreciation for Lincoln's drug of choice, humor. Like If I ever find a man uglier than myself, I'll shoot the wretch, put him out of his misery. That kind of thing. And more important for our purposes here, they developed a greater sense of empathy. And it was that latter one that caught my attention. As I approached retirement, the thought occurred to me, if Lincoln can entice wife beaters and drug dealers into seeing the other guy's point of view, he just might impact the sad, silly, dangerous state of political discourse in our country. And here I'm thinking particularly of young people, high school kids in civics class or English class or history class or student body assembly, kids on college campuses, service clubs, young Democrats, young Republicans. Imagine one of these young people going to the headquarters building of some political party to help out during an election campaign. You know as well as I do that the following is true. Before that kid finds where the bathrooms in that building are, they're going to learn three things. One, winning is all that counts. Two, love of party trumps love of country every time. Three, the difference between right and wrong is determined by which side has the bigger boatload of money. But suppose we got to those kids in advance. Suppose we got to them with the same Abraham Lincoln that impacted so positively those wife beaters and drug dealers. Suppose they experienced on a sustained basis a battle-tested idealist who won out massively in the end and didn't sell his soul to do it. Wow. If I just rang your bell and you're a high school teacher or administrator, or you're a faculty advisor for some university club, get in touch. And let's see if together, to paraphrase Steve Jobs, we might make a dent in our political universe.